What if your dream home came with eyes you couldn't see? What if every creak, every shadow, every unopened letter was a warning you ignored? This isn't a haunting. This is a message. One that waited decades, just for you. 657 Boulevard was supposed to be a fresh start. Derek could still feel the weight of the keys in his palm. New paint on the walls, hardwood floors still smelled of polish. And the laughter of his children echoed through the empty rooms. They were finally moving up. No more cramped city apartment. No more long commutes. This was home. Except, something felt off. It began 3 days after the move. A white envelope. No return address. No stamp. Just one word. Handwritten in sharp black ink. To the new owners. Inside, a letter. Typed. Cold. Clinical. Watching. 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now. I have been put in charge of watching it and waiting for its second coming. Derek froze. His wife Maria read the letter twice. Their daughter asked why Daddy's hands were shaking. He told her it was nothing, but his gut said otherwise. Derek couldn't sleep that night. Every light stayed on. He stood by the window until 3 a.m., staring at the empty street, his eyes darting between hedges, mailboxes, silhouettes. He wasn't paranoid. He was being watched. And whoever was watching, they knew everything. I see you have children. I've seen them through the windows. Once I know their names, I will call to them. Maria sobbed when she read that line. Not out of fear, but out of violation. Like someone had torn down the walls of their life and peered into their soul. Who does that? Derek remembered a conversation he had with the previous owners. They'd mentioned strange letters, but laughed it off. Old neighborhood quirks, they said. But they never said this. Not threats. Not promises. And then the second letter came. Worse. Longer. Personal. I asked the previous owners to bring me young blood. Have they finally delivered? Derek called the police. But there were no fingerprints. No camera footage. No suspects. No answers. Just more silence. And more letters. The watcher knew things. Things that no stranger could know. He described the layout of the home. The renovation plans. Even where their children played. It has been years since the young blood ruled the hallways of the house. Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Who requests young blood? Who waits decades for strangers to arrive? Maria was packing. Derek was losing sleep. The house felt colder. Every window felt like it was breathing. And then, a knock at the door. 3:47 a.m. No one visible through the peephole. Just an envelope on the doormat. Inside, have you found out what's hidden in the walls yet? What walls? What was in the walls? And why did it feel like whoever wrote that was already inside? How do you search a house when what you're looking for doesn't want to be found? What if the walls could whisper back? What if they already did? This isn't just a house. It's a trap, built just for them. Derek didn't sleep that night. Neither did Maria. They sat at the kitchen table in silence. The third letter lay between them, face down, like if they didn't read it again, maybe it wouldn't exist. But it did. So did the knocking, and the envelope, and the sentence that wouldn't leave Derek's head. Have you found what's hidden in the walls? Maria whispered first. What do you think he means? Her voice was thin, like something inside her had already cracked. Derek didn't answer. He just stared at the walls. Painted white. Fresh drywall. Expensive insulation. He knew what was behind them, right? Or did he? He suddenly hated the silence between the beams. It was too quiet. Too hollow. 2 months earlier, the house had been gutted. They'd opened every wall to add insulation. It was part of the reason they bought it. The renovations were new, clean, safe. But then Maria remembered something. A small moment. An offhand comment from the contractor. There was an old crawl space behind the pantry wall. Looked like someone sealed it up years ago. She hadn't thought about it until now. It seemed so harmless at the time. Why seal it? Why cover it up? Derek stood in front of the pantry. It was 2:17 a.m. He held a flashlight in one hand and a crowbar in the other. He stared at the wall, as if waiting for permission. He didn't ask Maria to come, didn't want her to see, whatever this was. The first pull of the crowbar cracked the plaster. Dust spilled like sand from a forgotten hourglass. The second pull opened a hole. Blackness waited inside, cold and stale and still. He shoved the flashlight in. Nothing. Just empty space. And then, a click. A soft metal click. He froze. Not a sound from his tool. Not from the wall. Something inside the crawlspace had moved. Derek leaned in, heart pounding. There it was again. A glint. Something metallic. He reached in and pulled out a small box. It was wrapped in old fabric. Cloth so faded, it barely had color. When he peeled it back, a scent hit him. Musty. Rotten paper. A faint chemical tinge like mothballs and old perfume. Inside the box, photographs. Dozens. Black and white. Some in color. All of them of the house. Different decades. Different families. Same angles. All taken from inside. But never from a normal point of view. Low. Hidden. Like from beneath the floorboards. Or within the walls. One photo was of the living room couch. Recent. Maria and the kids. Sitting. Smiling. Watching a movie. The image was dark. Taken through a vent. It hadn't existed 2 months ago. Who took it? When? And from where? Maria couldn't breathe when she saw the photo. She backed into the hallway and dropped the flashlight. Her knees gave way beneath her. There was something worse than being watched. It was not knowing when it started. Were they in here while we slept? How long have they been inside our lives? She sobbed. But not from fear. From guilt. She chose the house. She pushed Derek to take the offer. She wanted the dream. She brought them here. There was another envelope on the porch the next morning. No stamp. No signature. Only a sentence. I see you found my pictures. Now, do you see me? Derek dropped it. Didn't even open it. Couldn't. This wasn't a prank. Not a stranger. This person had access. He looked up at the attic window. Just for a second, he thought he saw a shape. Something pale. Thin. Watching. But when he blinked, it was gone. Or had it ever been there? Derek boarded up the crawlspace. He nailed the pantry shut. Slept with the crowbar beside his bed. The kids stayed with Maria's sister. He didn't want them to come back. But it didn't matter. Because that night, he got a text. No number. No name. Just a message. There's more than one wall in that house. And not all of them belong to you. The phone screen glowed. One text. No number. There's more than one wall in that house. And not all of them belong to you. Derek dropped the phone. It clattered on the kitchen tiles. Louder than it should have. The silence that followed felt intentional. He looked at the walls again. As if they'd shift. Breathe. Peel open and confess. But they didn't. They just stared back. Maria hadn't spoken much since they found the box. She kept walking through the house, quietly running her fingers across the walls, like she was listening for a heartbeat, not just out of fear, but something else, something buried. She stopped by the staircase that afternoon, laid her hand against the drywall, closed her eyes, and whispered, "I don't think this house wants us here." That night, Derek stayed up again. He pored over the photos from the hidden box. Old families. New angles. Same dread. Then he saw it. A face. In the far corner of a black and white photo. Barely visible behind a curtain on the second floor. It wasn't one of the family members. It wasn't even clear. Just a shape. A smear of pale skin, hollowed eyes, and something grinning. He flipped the photo over. A date was scribbled in faded pencil. June 1961. Who lived here in 61? And why did it feel like they never left? The next morning, Derek visited the township records office. The clerk was young, disinterested, until he mentioned the address. She hesitated, pulled her sweater sleeves over her wrists, whispered, "You're living in that house?" He nodded. She didn't meet his eyes. just slid a file across the desk. It's not just the Broaddus family. There's history. Derek opened the folder, and what he read made his stomach turn cold. 1955. A boy named Leonard J. Miles disappears. Age 11. Last seen riding his bike past 657 Boulevard. No suspects, no leads, no body. The case went cold. But the file didn't end there. In 1961, a new couple moved into the house. No children, but complaints began. Neighbors said they were off. Strange noises, lights at odd hours, whispers through the vents, and a name kept showing up in anonymous notes. The Watcher. First recorded in 1963. Back then, it was just local legend. A joke kids whispered at sleepovers. Until two more people went missing in 64 and 65. Both last seen walking past 657 Boulevard. While Derek researched the past, Maria made a discovery of her own. In the guest bedroom closet, she found a crack behind the shelving. She tugged, and the panel came loose, revealing a narrow cavity in the wall. Inside, an old recorder, the kind with reels, dusty, heavy, almost hidden. She brought it down to Derek. He plugged it into a converter, pressed play, and a voice, soft, male, unsettling, crackled through the speaker. They always think the walls are empty, but this house remembers, even the ones who forget. Maria couldn't breathe. That wasn't just a message. It was a warning. Derek began pacing, tracking shadows. He started keeping logs. When lights flicked on, when sounds came from the attic, when the floorboards creaked, even when no one walked. I think it's not just someone outside, someone inside the house, Maria. Not now, not today, but back then, and they left pieces of themselves behind. He started talking to the walls, not out loud, but in whispers. He didn't realize Maria was watching, didn't see the fear in her eyes anymore, because now it wasn't the house she was scared of. It was him. That night, while going through the photos again, Derek noticed something horrifying. In every decade, every family, the furniture changed, the clothes changed, the walls were repainted. But one thing stayed the same. There was always a tall, narrow vent. In the corner of the upstairs hallway, Derek grabbed the flashlight, marched upstairs, and pried it open. Inside, torn fabric, old chewing gum, crushed cigarette butts, and teeth, for small, yellowed teeth, human, filed down, stuffed inside a child's shoebox. He dropped it, stumbled back, gagged into his hands. That's when Maria called from downstairs, her voice trembling. Derek, there's another letter. He ran, snatched it from her shaking hands, and inside only one sentence. You're looking in the wrong direction. I'm beneath you. What if the person tormenting you wasn't outside your home? Not watching through windows, not waiting in shadows, but already beneath your feet, breathing the same air, and hearing every word you whispered in the dark. Derek stood frozen. The letter crumpled in his hand. It said, You're looking in the wrong direction. I'm beneath you. Beneath. The word vibrated through his bones. Maria stood across from him, pale, unmoving. Her eyes begged him not to do it, to stop, but Derek couldn't. He had to know. He went down into the basement alone. The door creaked louder than usual. It always did when it was humid. But tonight the air was dry. That creak wasn't weather. It was warning. The basement smelled different now. Less of paint, more of mildew. More of something decaying. He stepped onto the cold concrete. His flashlight flicked once, then held steady. The basement was unfinished. Exposed pipes, stone walls, an old sink rusted at the base. Nothing unusual, until he turned right. Behind the furnace was a hatch, covered in dust, almost invisible. The edges were sealed with cobwebs, as if even the spiders knew it should stay shut. He yanked it. The hatch gave slowly. Each inch sounded like tearing skin. Inside, a crawl space, longer than he expected. Tighter, darker. He crawled in. The ground was cold, damp. His flashlight beam cut through floating dust, thick like smoke. And then, a sound. Click. It wasn't behind him. It wasn't in front. It was beneath, as if something below the crawl space had just moved. Suddenly, a memory struck Derek like a hammer. He was 9. His grandfather's house. There had been a door in the floor. A place the adults never talked about. But one night he opened it. There'd been jars, old photos, and a child's shoe. He never asked about it. But now, in this moment, it all came crashing back. Was that memory connected to this? Was this something passed down? While Derek crawled through dust and darkness, Maria stood alone in the living room, arms wrapped around herself. The walls didn't feel like plaster anymore. They felt like breath, like tension pressing in. She felt watched. More than watched, listened to. She whispered to herself just to feel sane. This isn't normal. We should have left. We still can. And then she heard it. A knock, but not from the door. From inside the vent. 3 short taps. Like a rhythm. Like a message. She dropped the mug in her hand. Porcelain shattered across the hardwood. She didn't scream. She couldn't. Her voice was buried beneath the fear. In the crawlspace, Derek found shelves. Built into the dirt walls. Wooden. Old. Wet. Lined with tapes. Cassette tapes. Hundreds. Numbered. Catalogued. No labels. Just numbers. He grabbed one. Pressed play on the old Walkman still attached to the shelf. And a voice whispered through. Monday, 3:12 p.m. The girl is reading on the couch. She laughs when the boy throws popcorn. She doesn't know I'm here. None of them do. Derek's heart nearly stopped. The voice was familiar. Not from outside. Not from old records. It was his own. He threw the tape. It hit the wall and snapped. He played another. Friday, 11:47 p.m. He's walking upstairs. He heard the pipes creak. He won't check the furnace. Not yet. Again his voice. His tone. His rhythm. It was him. But it couldn't be. Was he sleepwalking? Losing time? Being framed? Was the house playing him? Or was there a part of him he didn't remember? Back upstairs, Maria found Derek's journal. She wasn't proud of it, but something in her screamed that it mattered now. She flipped through pages. Normal at first. Budgets. Renovation notes. Daily tasks. Then, words repeated over and over. The house is in me. It listens through me. I think I wrote the letters. But I don't remember mailing them. Maria dropped the book. The man she married was unraveling. Or worse, he'd already unraveled. Another envelope arrived. This time it was slipped under the bathroom door. Maria found it. Opened it. But it wasn't a threat. It was a page from a child's book. A drawing. Of a house. With crying windows. A basement. A man inside the walls. And one line beneath the image. He was never alone. That night, Maria installed a baby monitor. Pointed it at the vent. At 3:19 a.m., the device buzzed. She hit record. What she heard wasn't Derek. Wasn't a child. Wasn't even quite human. It whispered. She's starting to see. She hears what he forgets. She'll find the room soon. Then silence. And then one final whisper. She's not his wife. She's the key. What if you weren't the victim, but the reason everything began? What if someone chose your family? Because of you? Not because of the house. Not because of luck. But because you've been followed. Longer than you remember. The baby monitor buzzed. Then died. Maria stared at the screen, her breath caught in her chest. The words were still echoing. She's not his wife. She's the key. She clutched the monitor with white knuckles. As if pressure alone could rewind the voice. She pressed replay. Nothing. Just static. No voice. No whisper. It was gone. Her heart pounded harder than it should. She wasn't just scared. She felt exposed. Unwrapped. Like someone had peeled back her memories. And chosen the ones she'd buried deepest. There was something. A moment she never told Derek. When she was 13, a man followed her home from school. She never saw his face, just his shadow. He left notes, poems, pages torn from books with her name scribbled in the margins. One had said, "You are meant to open the house again." She never understood it. Her parents dismissed it. The note stopped. The memory faded. Until now. Until that whisper. That night, Maria went into the attic. Alone. She needed space from Derek. And from herself. The air was dense up there. Dry but choking. She moved aside boxes, photo albums, dust-covered memories. Then, she found something strange. Tucked behind an old mirror was a stack of folded papers, tied with red string. She sat cross-legged, trembling, and untied the bundle. Inside were handwritten letters. Not typed, not modern, written in a woman's hand. "He never stops watching. I heard him breathing through the walls. I thought I was alone, until I realized I was never alone." The letters were dated March 1975, November 1982, June 1994, all from women who once lived in the house. All afraid, all watched. And the most chilling letter, from 1994, read, "The man isn't real, not like you think. He's passed through others. He watches through people. He watched me through my husband. And now, I think he's inside me." Maria gripped the attic floorboards. What if Derek isn't the only one being watched? What if we're being used? She remembered the journal. Derek writing, "The house is in me. I think I wrote the letters." Was he losing his mind? Or worse, was something speaking through him? Downstairs, Derek sat in the dark. The baby monitor was in his lap. Even though it was off, he kept listening. Every creak in the walls made him flinch. He heard Maria above him, but her footsteps felt distant, foreign, like someone else had taken her body for a walk. He whispered to himself, "She's the key. What does that mean?" Then the voice came again, not aloud, not from a speaker, inside his head. "She opens what I can't reach. She remembers what he forgot. She was chosen." Derek screamed and threw the monitor. It shattered across the hardwood. Back in the attic, Maria unfolded the final note. The ink was smeared from age and water, but she could still read one line. "There's a door beneath the stairwell. Not the one you see. The one the house hides." She ran downstairs. Derek was still trembling, sweat on his brow, eyes wild. She didn't speak, didn't ask. She pulled up the rug at the base of the stairs. The floor looked normal, but when she knocked, the echo was wrong, hollow. She pried at the corner. A seam appeared. Derek stared. "How did you know?" Maria whispered, "Because someone like me has been here before." She found a catch. Rusty. Stuck. Derek helped. They opened it together. The door didn't creak. It exhaled. A stale, bitter wind rose up, filled with rot and dust and memory. There was a staircase, leading down, much deeper than the basement. Maria grabbed a flashlight. Derek followed, barefoot, silent. The steps groaned under their weight. Old, unstable, as if they hadn't been touched in decades, or only touched by those who never came back. At the bottom, they found a narrow corridor. Dirt walls, stone floor, water dripping from overhead. A low hum, like something alive but dormant. There were etchings in the stone. Names, dates, symbols that didn't belong to any faith. "It's like a journal written by the house," Maria whispered. "But in stone." Then they saw it. At the very end of the hall, a wooden door, and nailed across it, a sign that read, "Do not open if she is with you." Derek froze. "Who's she?" Maria whispered. "They mean me." From behind the door, they heard whispering. Voices layered over voices. Young and old. Male and female. Innocent and broken. And then, one voice separated from the rest. It was a woman, crying, begging. "You brought her back. You don't understand. She's the one he's been waiting for." Maria backed away. Derek stepped forward. He placed his hand on the wood. It was warm. Then, thump, something slammed against the other side. Not once, but 3 times. And then, she's the door. Open her, and I come home. What if the stalker you feared wasn't trying to get in your house, but trying to get out? What if your fear was the doorway, and you were the key that finally turned? Derek stood frozen, hands still pressed against the wood. It was warm, almost feverish. Maria trembled 2 steps behind him, her breath shallow, pulse loud in her ears. The voice was still there, the one from behind the door. She's the door. Open her, and I come home. The hallway pressed inward. The stone felt tighter, thicker. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Not because she didn't believe it, but because she did. They don't want him to open the door, she thought. They want to open me. Memories began surfacing, but they weren't hers. They felt old, out of place, borrowed. She whispered to Derek, barely audible. I think I've been here before. Age 6, a hospital hallway. She remembers being wheeled past a door that had no number. Her mother whispered, we don't talk about what's behind that door. But she did talk. She talked in her sleep. And sometimes, someone whispered back. She remembers none of this making sense. Until now. Derek slowly turned the doorknob. The wood let out a deep, hollow groan. Not from age, but from something more alive. The door opened. What they saw was not a room. It was a circle. Stone walls curved inward, scratched with markings. Not painted, carved. Scraped from inside by fingernails. Chains hung from the ceiling. A single wooden chair sat in the middle, facing a mirror, but the mirror didn't reflect them. It reflected a different version of the room. Bloodied, occupied, flickering like film. Maria stepped in, drawn not by curiosity, but by something pulling her. The moment she crossed the threshold, the voices exploded. Children crying, men chanting, a woman sobbing, and a single voice whispering, you wore the veil once. Do you remember? Key? She dropped to her knees. Visions flooded her eyes. Flashes of a life that wasn't hers, but felt rooted in her bones. Derek tried to reach her, tried to speak. But the moment his foot hit the stone circle, his ears began to bleed. He collapsed, vomiting black liquid, thick like tar, burning hot. The house didn't want him. It wanted her. Maria crawled to the chair. Her fingertips grazed its armrest. Splinters bit her skin. Blood dripped down. 1 drop hit the floor, and the room changed. The markings glowed faint red. The air turned warm. The mirror shimmered. And in it, a woman stared back. Not Maria. Not quite. But something with her face. And the woman said, he left something inside you. When you were born. He's been waiting for it to come back. Maria gasped. Who? The mirror smiled. The first watcher. Not a man. A voice. A hunger. A name with no mouth. The mirror darkened. Then lit up with images. Snapping like old film. 1865. A child buried alive in the walls. 1912. A woman vanished during childbirth in the attic. 1954. A priest locked behind the pantry, scribbling on the drywall with his blood. Every decade, every family, someone disappeared. And each time, a new watcher was born. Not a person, but a carrier, a host, chosen, burdened, transformed. And now, it's your turn. Your body is the door. Your voice is the keyhole. Your silence is the invitation. She backed away from the mirror. The room pulsed. The air vibrated. She screamed, I'm not yours. The house replied through the walls. You've always been mine. Even your mother knew. That's why she buried the truth. Derek crawled to her, his voice weak, his mind splintering. Maria, come back. Please just come back. But she didn't look at him. She looked at the mirror, at her reflection, at the version of herself that wasn't crying, wasn't afraid, wasn't her, but felt stronger. The watcher spoke once more. You have one more step. Open the mouth. Let me through. Maria looked at the chair. There was something etched on the seat. For words. Sit, bleed, speak, become. She stepped toward it. Her hand trembled over the backrest. Derek shouted, "Don't! This isn't you. This isn't real." She turned to him, tears in her eyes. "It is. It always was. And you brought me back here." She sat. The mirror shattered. The markings flared red. And from the walls, the watcher began to come home. Derek screamed, ran to her, tried to lift her from the chair. But she was rooted, eyes rolling back, mouth opening wide, too wide, wider than it should. And from her throat, a voice emerged that was not hers. "You watched me too long, Derek. Now watch me come through her." Then silence. Her eyes opened, but they weren't Maria's anymore. What if the person you loved most was no longer behind their eyes? What if their voice still called your name, but something else had taken the breath behind it? Would you run, or would you stay, just to hold on to what used to be? Maria's body sat motionless in the chair, but her eyes were wrong. Too dark, too still. Derek reached for her, hands trembling, voice shaking. "Maria, it's me. It's Derek. Please, come back." She turned her head, smiled, but it wasn't hers. Her voice returned, but with a second tone underneath. A growl behind the breath. "You brought me through. You sat her down. She never had a choice. But you did." Derek's knees hit the stone. His breath shattered in his chest. He had fought the letters, fought the whispers, fought the basement, the crawlspace, the history, but he had never fought her. And now, she was the house. She was the room. She was the final door. "No," he whispered. "This wasn't supposed to happen. You were supposed to fight it." Maria stood. Slowly, mechanically, she took 3 steps toward him, her bare feet silent on the floor. The silence screamed louder than footsteps ever could. Suddenly, the house pulsed. The mirror shards on the ground began to shimmer. Images flickered in the broken glass like dying film. A woman in 1923, whispering to her unborn child, "I name you the keeper." A child in 1959, playing with a doll made of teeth. A teenage girl in 1987, painting symbols onto her own back. And in every image, the same smile behind different eyes. The watcher wasn't a man, not even a ghost. It was a cycle, past, hidden, inherited, like a virus, or a vow. Inside her mind, Maria was trapped. She floated in a memory that wasn't hers. A corridor of doors, each one pulsing red. And at the end of the hallway, a version of herself, younger, in a hospital gown, reaching out. "Don't let him keep me. You're the last one. You're the only one who remembers." Maria screamed. She slammed her fists against the walls inside her mind. The door cracked. The voice inside her snarled. "Too late. You sat. You bled. You became." Back in the physical room, Derek noticed something under the chair. Tin box. Dusty. Locked. He smashed it open with a stone. Inside, a single letter. Yellowed. Written in Maria's handwriting. But older. Years older. "To whoever finds this, I am not who I think I am. And neither are you. This house was given a mouth when I was born. I don't know how to silence it, but I know it fears fire." Derek looked up. Maria's face flickered, like a failing light bulb. Derek backed away, tears streaming, body shaking. He grabbed the oil lamp by the stone wall, lit the wick. He looked at her, his wife, his Maria, and the thing behind her eyes. "If you're still in there, forgive me." The watcher laughed through her lips. "She won't forgive, but she'll remember the fire." He threw the lamp. Flames exploded across the stone floor. The red carvings flared. The air turned thick. Maria didn't scream. She just watched. Watched until her pupils turned glassy. Until her lips whispered, "Thank you." Then, she collapsed. Derek rushed forward, pulled her into his arms. The fire raged around them. The walls screamed. The chains above them snapped. The house was dying. or waking up for the last time. Derek carried Maria up the stairwell. Smoke behind him, ash in his throat, blood in her hair. He burst through the trapdoor, collapsed on the floorboards. The house moaned one last time. Then, silence. Firefighters came hours later. But by then, the basement had collapsed. All that remained was soot, and the chair, untouched by flame. Maria awoke 3 days later. Hospital bed. White sheets. Derek held her hand. She blinked slowly, squeezed his fingers. "I remember the other girls," she whispered. "I saw all of them. I held their names inside me for years. I was the house." Derek just cried. He didn't ask her to explain. Some things are only meant to be felt, not understood. They moved. Far away. New home. No basement. But one afternoon, a letter arrived. Plain envelope. No return address. Inside, one photo. Black and white. A young couple smiling in front of a burned-down house. In the background, barely visible in the window behind them, Maria, watching from inside. But not this Maria. The other one, smiling wide. Do you think this was a ghost? Or something worse? Was Maria ever really free? Or is the watcher still waiting? And subscribe to the Veil of Secret for more terrifying true stories you won't believe are real.